Hi, welcome to XReality podcast. I'm the host, Dominic Wu, and beside me is our guest, Lucas. Hey, Lucas, could you share a little bit about your background with us?
Sure thing. Thank you for having me. A pleasure to be here. I'm a long-time entrepreneur. I've been doing this for 15 plus years, a couple of successful exits on my third company. Um, a lot of years doing, before it was called generative AI, I was doing machine learning and big data and so on and so forth. I began, to give you an idea, I began coding in 1986. I think some of our listeners weren't born in 1986. But
I
yes, I've
was
been
born in
a lot of.
1985,
Okay,
one
there you
year
go.
earlier.
There you go. You were 1 year old when I began coding. So, yes, long number of years doing technology to improve the life of people. A long number of years. Ultimately, lately, doing a little bit of academic work and helping other people acquire frameworks that makes them successful. So that's a very brief introduction of a very long career.
Oh, yeah. So pretty much my entire life, you are working on all those like AI innovation. So yeah, so um like if you know how to build an AI agent, let me help you find a business. Like, can you? I saw this like a kind of like a saying through your kind of like a the core of your business. Can you unpack this mission and how does this define the future of entrepreneurship in the age of agentic AI?
Sure. That's a great first question because over the years that I've been doing this as an entrepreneur, I learned that you can start a lot of different projects, a lot of different companies. But if you don't have your mission and your vision clearly, very likely you will go around running in circles, or you'll feel very naturally that you're spinning wheels because ultimately you don't know where you should be headed.
Yeah.
The mission and your vision should be your north. The entrepreneurial journey takes you left and right, up and down all the time. You feel you're making progress, and actually, you find yourself 100 yards or 100 miles behind, back in where you were 6 months ago. And
Hmm.
therefore, it's super important to have a north very clearly, right? So on Alma, I am of the vision that AI should be for all.
Hmm.
And our mission, written very, very simply, is to mint 1 million millionaires.
Hmm.
And therefore, the way to do that, I believe, is via a marketplace.
Hmm.
The latest, we're recording this in late June of 2025, right?
Hmm.
And the latest that we have seen in the market is the big companies offering sign-on bonuses of $100 million to
Hmm.
AI scientists who
Hmm.
can create thinking, reasoning models.
Yeah.
And agents is the latest installment in this crazy revolution of artificial intelligence that we have seen. So
Hmm.
right there, that is an example of something that if you don't look up, if you don't know where you're going, it could be mind-boggling, right? It's like, how can somebody get $100 million sign-on bonus for the knowledge that they have acquired? Is that different from the knowledge that you and I can acquire or somebody else can acquire? I
Hmm.
would venture that no. Of course, those individuals are very, very gifted in their knowledge, but it's not $100 million differential. We're in
Hmm.
the middle of some crazy, crazy moments, and the fight for it takes companies to do that. So going back to your question, agentic AI is the latest version of a very hot, very, what is it, passionate fight to be the latest and do the greatest. And I am sure there will be something else coming in a few months, not even a year, that could be slightly different, of different variation, different incarnation. That's
Hmm.
why it's so important, right? Whether it's AI agents or not, to have a
Hmm.
very clear understanding of where you are going. Again, in the case of Alma, we have a marketplace to deliver on the mission of minting 1 million millionaires and bring us closer to that vision of
Hmm.
AI for all,
Mm,
So um, agents is very interesting. I was there years ago when robotic process automation was a thing, and those tools require a lot of dedication, a lot of clarity around the process that you were going to automate, right?
mm,
And it was always at a time, this is the hype of RPA was 5 years ago, 4 years ago. And when generative AI came out, it was super clear to see, hey, listen, if I can have a language model write, maybe the language model can write code, and robots require code. So now we have a new way to do codes for robots to work. So it took us only 18 months, 12 months to arrive to agents um, in the quest for uh, intelligent and more intelligent systems. We stumble upon this intermediate step where, well, maybe we cannot have a huge one system that thinks and reasons and does everything. We may have small agents in the middle playing roles for us, and the agents will have specific tools. So the concept is quite easy to grasp. Again, I think it is the latest in a long fight and a long journey of making machines more capable of achieving what we users want. And
mm,
so, therefore, I think this is the second part of your question.
mm,
If you know how to create agents, you are at the top of the wave of the biggest technology revolution that we are having in recent centuries, maybe, right? I think that usually electricity is compared to this. It changed everything in our production systems. AI is changing everything. So imagine being in 1890 and being able to hold cables for electricity and do installations for electricity and create tools with electricity, right? My grandfather used to be a carpenter, and he
mm,
had a big arm, right? Because he knew how to saw wood and so on and so forth. Imagine that somebody younger comes and creates an electric saw. All of a sudden, everything changes, right?
mm,
So that is a mindset I want you to use. I want your listeners to think of. You can do agents. You can start your own business. Start small. You know how to get them to work, how to instruct them to do things, how to tell users how to use them, how to deal with deviations when the agents produce them. So we are in an amazing moment where you can do amazing things with technology, and the entry barrier shouldn't be that hard. Right? Agents don't require you to code very high level coding, C sharp, and all those languages that are ancient now. Agents are easier.
mm.
So if you put all those pieces together, I think we're in a magnificent place that we can do almost anything. I want to say, um, yeah, it's a tremendous moment.
Yeah, and I wanna mention that I saw before we had a chat, and you are kind of helping people to build, or like it's a marketplace where people can submit their AI agent and people can buy it. And can you tell us a little bit more about it? It seems like because recently I play around with like a that types of open source types of AI agent. And there are a lot of free tutorials out there and teaching you how to implement it. As long as you have like some, like some API or something, and you just put like some code inside, and you can pretty much, for example, like doing like a marketing campaign. And I was impressed how that types of system can really start from at the beginning to at the end and sync with your Google account, and it can send like a mail list for you. So pretty much you are doing more like the marketplace for something more like a somebody who can build that and package it as some types of certain AI agent and for people to purchase.
Exactly, exactly. Yes, 2 years ago, which sounds in a way very short time, but a long time in the generative AI revolution.
Mm,
I was talking to users,
mm,
and I remember talking to a lot of people
mm,
in developing countries. I'm originally from Argentina, and I
mm,
understand the difficulties of getting access to technology.
mm,
I was coding in Argentina in 1986, right, with
mm,
one computer, very, very small computer.
mm,
And so I started talking to people, I think it was in India.
mm,
And for the sake of a story, I was talking with a young woman called, let's say, Jane,
mm,
not the real name. And she
mm,
was telling me how she's been struggling to make some money to pay her bills and go through school. And
mm,
she lives in a small village outside of one of the big cities in, I think, Bangalore in
mm,
India.
mm,
And she's been trying with the usual, what is it, contractor platforms like Upwork or Fiverr.
mm,
And she got some jobs. She made some money.
mm,
She had the bad experience of being not paid because the
mm,
client claimed that the work wasn't up to the quality she claimed it was. In those cases, the contractor always, almost quote unquote, always loses and doesn't get paid. It's quite onerous on the contractor to prove, and so on and so forth. So she was frustrated. The other
mm,
limit she told me when we were talking about how to use technology to improve one's life, Jane tells me, you know, it is very hard to be fully occupied, fully
mm,
chargeable, right? I had a long number of years in consulting, and I completely understand. You need to be trying to get jobs, and you'd have to be bidding on jobs all the time. You don't get 100% of the bids you place, and so on and so forth.
mm,
So at best, she could be working two-thirds of her year, 50% of her year.
mm,
And so we were talking about this concept because on the other side, a good friend of mine,
mm,
Catherine, she loves technology. Everything she does for her company is with computers and mobiles. There is nothing she can do without a computer and mobile. But Catherine, she's not a developer. She's not
mm,
going to spend hours and hours learning how to use N8N to automate
mm,
processes, right?
mm,
So the idea became quite clear that if I could connect Jane on one side who wants to work and do more, and she could understand what Catherine needs on the other side, and they could collaborate on a platform, both of them would benefit.
mm,
Catherine would get full benefit of this amazing tool called generative AI.
mm,
And Jane actually could make serious money because for the first time she could create a product that could become a software as a service, right?
mm,
Her entire portfolio of agents or prompts and any type of AI product, she could create once and sell multiple times.
mm,
And because we are creating a community around the marketplace, it will be very hard to stick people with payment. So
mm,
bad players are going to be rooted out, and therefore the Janes of the world are protected and safer than in the current platform, right? So that is the concept behind the marketplace. That is the power of communities trying to solve each other's problems while generating economic value, right? So I think that's at the core of our revolution. We're unique in that sense that we are bringing people together, um, and we're quite proud of it.
mm. Yeah, I think right now, like on my LinkedIn feed, it's all like a agentic AI or like AI agents. Yeah, and for a lot of companies, right now I saw a lot of AI companies. They are trying to do a lot of like a AI agent. For example, like a Gemini, CLI, your open source AI agent. I think, and as for like a open AI, right? If you have the pro, which you spend like you subscribe like a $200 per month, something like that. And there's something called operator. So pretty much it can understand you need to train it first and it needs to understand you, and pretty much you can kind of place an order, for example, like, oh, plan a trip for me, and
Mhm.
just use the operator. So what do you see your AI agents compare with those big companies' product?
Sure. First, we have better offerings at lower prices at Alma. So
Mm,
I highly encourage people to check us out. We have alma.ai
mm,
is the website, two M's. We have a GPT-like environment which offers you access to all the LLMs. So
mm,
you don't need to pay 20 or 200 to just use one LLM. You come to Alma, you pay less than that, and you get access to all the LLMs. And
mm,
therefore, you can do way more powerful things. For
mm,
certain parts, you may like an OpenAI language model. You go ahead and use 4.0 Mini. But for the next part of your work, you want to switch to Claude 3.7,
mm,
Opus, whatever it is, Gemini. We
mm,
even have copies of the open source of DeepSeek hosted on Azure environments. So everything is operated on US infrastructure.
mm.
Um, what we are
Um,
seeing is, yes,
oh, I just wanna have like another question, which is, for example, like how's the data security part for your a Arma.ai? Like what's the
yes.
data security? Yeah.
Everything is hosted on Microsoft Azure, which is top of the game, right? There are three
Mm,
big players on cloud computing, AWS, obviously, Google Cloud, and Amazon, and Microsoft Azure.
mm,
Um, we are an Azure startup. We are part of their ecosystem. Their systems are the best in class. They came first, offering, excuse me,
mm,
OpenAI models hosted on Azure. There was a controversy at the beginning of this revolution where OpenAI was being sued and they are still being sued. So a lot
mm,
of our users didn't want to go to OpenAI because in a
mm,
simple lawsuit in any court,
mm,
everybody's chat can be discovered. So
mm,
think about that, right? So if as part of the lawsuits are ongoing, somebody, the lawyer of the accusing side can ask for chats to prove their point. And your chats, my chats, everybody's chats, the chats of a company, employees of a company have been chatting with OpenAI are discoverable as part of the pending lawsuits. So
mm,
our users became concerned with that, and we started offering this other solution, which is models hosted on Azure are
mm,
not hosted on OpenAI servers, but are the exact same copy of the LLMs that OpenAI has produced, and that is part of their agreement. So we started
mm,
with that. We started providing more privacy and top-notch safety that Azure provides as part of all um, their services. And we
mm,
began building around that, right? We kept on adding services and access to LLMs and our whole infrastructure on one of the most secure clouds in the planet. And the latest installment is the copies that they host of DeepSeek, right? As we all know that DeepSeek was made by a Chinese company, and there were some um, controversies back and forth of where the data is going. And we have a simple solution for that. We use the copy that Azure provides on their cloud. So everything is hosted in an extremely good and well secured cloud environment, right? Uh,
yeah.
yeah.
And I saw you have a lot of like a products. It's like a 499 and for the entire kind of like the plugin. And my question is another question is that do you have any actual user, pay user, and what's their feedback for all the AI agents?
Yes. So product the creators of the agents, creator of the personas, creators of the plugins, they are free to set their prices. And we
Mm,
have seen prices all over the place, right? When OpenAI came out and saying that their research agent cost
mm,
$20,000, if I remember correctly, per month, or
mm,
$200,000 a year,
mm,
we knew of that value before they came out with that price, because we can see how the agents augment a team of people,
mm,
10x, 15x, 20x.
Mm,
So we are unique in that sense because we allow creators to set their own prices. We don't tell them. So if you come to our market and you bring an agent that costs $5, $50,000, is your decision as a creator. That is part of creating um, level playing field where you, the creator, you who know AI and have the ability to do to create these tools. I'm not going to
mm,
tell you how to monetize your skills, right? There's plenty of that in the marketplace or other environments. We are not that. So we have a
mm,
host range of prices on purpose. The marketplace uh, plays a huge role in allowing us to discover what users are willing to pay, right? We
mm,
have seen services or products briefly put on sale for 99 cents. Nobody
mm,
buys them. We have
mm,
seen similar products for around 1,000. People are very interested in those products. So we give a lot of freedom to the creator. And the most important aspect on this is that when creators onboard and creators engage in the community, they learn very quickly, which is why one of the many reasons why a marketplace is so helpful.
mm,
Creators usually are very technical and they are very well versed on using APIs or 8 and 8, as you mentioned earlier, creating very
mm,
sophisticated automations. But unless you start thinking as in terms of the value your product creates, you're not going to be able to be successful.
mm,
That is a major, major transformation between building something and selling something.
mm,
Selling begins with what is this worth to the buyer, not in terms of money, right? What does it mean? What is the byproduct of using this tool? And
mm,
so we are learning with more and more cases on a weekly basis that when we communicate to potential buyers, listen, when you bring a team of AI agents and similar tools to your staff, to your human team, all of a sudden your human team can do more with less. Either if
mm,
it is on sales, your team can save time and reach other humans and talk to more prospects in a
mm,
week, which increases sales,
mm,
or they can produce material faster, and they can personalize material in a way that it was very hard to do in the past, very tedious, time consuming. You end up sending the same type of sales collateral to every potential customer. It doesn't hit everybody the same way. So all of a sudden you augment. When our creators begin talking to customers like that, all of
mm,
a sudden they start gaining traction. A lot of
mm,
people do that transition. They click very quickly. Others
mm.
take a little bit more time. But that is the way. That is the way to create value and to launch a company around an AI agent. That is one of the many things that I want to bring to the marketplace. Teach creators do this, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and another question is that so far I didn't see any kind of like a participate or user testimonials so and as for me, if I saw AI personas, I can always go to, for example, like a free version of ChatGPT and say, hey, act like somebody and answer those questions. So how can you differentiate? I know you mentioned that, oh, you can always switch to Claude or some other personas, but I can have a couple of windows and ask the same question. The other thing is that recently I got introduced to another chat kind of more like for educator. It's called playlab.ai, and it's a kind of like open source, and it's a nonprofit organization. So a lot of teacher recommend me to kind of use it, and I actually knew a lot of teacher already using that for student to practice with AI chatbot and for some assignment, and they I can share with you this URL. So my question is that uh, those types of business, and they are all like this is more like a place where teachers feel safe and get in and start creating their like an AI persona. For example, like biology, like, oh, you are act like a biology a professor or something, and
Yes.
teacher will put all their curriculum in, and they have dashboard. So all the teachers right now, as far as I know, a lot of higher education teacher is using this platform. So
Mhm.
how do you see? Because I know you have a lot of different types of AI kind of personas. Yeah. So what's the benefit that you provide that can be better than this nonprofit platform?
Yes. So we we are seeing a very fast evolution in the abilities of users around prompting,
Mm,
very quick.
mm,
I usually explain to students and anybody who attends a workshop with me um, what prompting or the quality of prompting does. And the example I use is suppose you go to a library and you show up there and you say, "Give me books." You are going to be given books. This library contains all the knowledge,
mm,
digitized knowledge in the world,
mm,
and is very prone to give you things,
mm.
right? The library being the LLM.
Yeah.
And so the first time that happens, you realize, well, wait a minute, this is a lot of things that I didn't want. I
Yeah.
should maybe be more specific.
Mm,
And this is when we start learning these techniques of prompting, giving more precision. So next time you say, well, I actually want to learn how to cook French cuisine, and I never cooked before. Give me books to learn. Okay, so this time you are given some books, but maybe you're given books for advanced cooking or traditional French cooking and some of ingredients you cannot get in your local supermarket. So this time, what you're doing, you should be doing is explaining the context. You
mm,
want to say, I never cooked. I don't mind spending a lot of hours doing it. I only have ingredients that are found typically in an American supermarket or whatever you are located.
mm,
And I have a simple kitchen with these implements and this stuff. And I want to learn how to make 3 or 4 French dishes in the space of 4 to 5 weeks, which is the time I have, right? So now
mm,
you're giving a lot of context to the model. And this librarian will turn around and maybe give you books for beginners, simple cooking first, right? Never cooked before. All of the books in English, by the way, right? You should have said, I only read English. I don't know any French or other languages. And so that is advanced prompting.
mm,
Now, there are a few more layers. We are about to complete, we're in the middle of a research of system prompts. We have
mm,
spent time within Alma studying how the big language models create prompts for their raw systems, right? And we
mm,
have noticed a few best practices that we're going to share with the community so everybody gets to prompt better and better and better.
mm,
And a good prompt should have restrictions. A
mm,
good prompt should say, do not do this, do not do that. Always do this, do not provide fake information, do not create or fabricate facts, do not provide URLs that do not exist, be succinct, do not impersonate a human, right?
mm,
Those are good prompts. But now comes agents. Now, the agent is the librarian, right?
mm,
You're going to this library, you have a very specific request, but now you
mm,
have the power to design that librarian.
mm,
Suppose now you say the librarian should be a chef with 25 years of experience and also a trainer, professor of cooking with another
mm,
25 years of experience, right? That's 50 years of experience. Nobody has that type of experience and should have mastered learning techniques of simple French dishes, should have mastered the pedagogy to teach somebody to cook, and should know perfect English, and should have a good sense of humor. So you're designing the best librarian that you could ever encounter when you ask these books that you are trying to learn to achieve your objective. So we are seeing more and more and more evolution and improvement around how to interact with the language models. So it's not surprising that another platform has shown up on the marketplace, which I think it is very good news. Somebody doing this as a nonprofit, helping the educational community is very, very good news. And if they have found a way, I will check out the URL you're sending. They found ways to improve the experience and the outputs, minimize hallucination, find ways to help educators and students use language models the right way, an ethical way that doesn't impede growth. I'm a fan already. Right? That's a very, very good output. So you see that every other month we have a new player. Somebody brings a new angle to things and brings all these different innovations together, right? So it's we live in fantastic times. What can I tell you?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I saw a lot of really good, like the AI, agentic AI, and all those like AI personas. Yeah. My next question is that like a more like a open source and building more like a, for example, like a um, the entire AI. What do you see? For example, right now we have OpenAI, which is totally not open source, and the other the interesting thing is that, for example, like Llama AI is start doing more like a open source. However, I think I can see a lot of interesting like a battle between different kind of LLM. And I think for those types of like I would say the inner engine to run all those chat, what do you see which like kind of like a LLM is the most impactful? For example, data security, and also which chatbot has, or like which LLM is less hallucination. Like what do you see different types of like a LLM?
The quality of all the LLMs have increased very rapidly.
Mm,
I think we have learned how to use the LLMs in
mm,
better ways, right? I
mm,
remember a couple of years ago when I was interviewing users before launching the company,
mm,
and people made hilarious claims, right? People didn't fully understand what this was. And so some people told me, well, I stopped using it because I thought it knew me better, right? So how would
mm,
you come to the notion that the machine will know you? Well, they're talking about artificial intelligence. So obviously they have created intelligence, and it should know me. With all the information about me online, it should know me, right?
mm,
So we came from those type of notions.
mm,
Then we saw a lot of questions around hallucinations. And the answer to hallucinations is quite simple. This is a machine that manufactures text at fast speed, and in the process of manufacturing the text, it's not checking the sources, and
mm,
therefore this is super comparable to having teammates working, working with a team of people. If you manage individuals, you learn to check their work, you
mm,
delegate work, but you check the quality of the work, and you are not um, surprised if a human makes a mistake. Well, the
mm,
LLMs, the best mental models to interact with the LLMs
mm.
are those. When
Oh,
you augment a team, but you don't fully delegate, right? I
mm,
speak a lot about implementation frameworks with enterprise customers, and that is a
mm.
way to understand how to augment properly. Another thing that
Oh,
I always mention is you have to put a human in the loop and also know how to mitigate risks of mistakes made by LLMs. So
mm,
right there are three clear answers on how to handle hallucinations. On top
mm,
of that, all the providers have
mm,
created better systems. And in part of their system prompts, they have created mechanisms to avoid doing things, right? Now,
Mm,
another layer of improvement is that we can connect these LLMs to MCP servers. In simple terms, we can give it access to the internet. And therefore, when
mm,
you give access to the internet, it's not hard to say, check the information you're going to provide. Do not fabricate anything. When you cite a source, use access to the internet to check it is there, right? You have way more control to prevent hallucinations. So all in all, I think it's a problem of the recent past.
mm,
Nobody should be using these tools as a source of perfection and the ultimate source of information and source of truth. These
mm,
are magnificent typewriters with a lot of information encoded in them. So when you make them focus with an agent, when you make them use a proper context with a proper prompt, um, you get magnificent output, right?
mm,
So all of the systems, the open source question is tremendous because I think we still have a huge number of debates and big questions to answer in generative AI. And
mm,
one of them could be regulation,
mm,
right? And so the regulation question, maybe we have to explore a framework similar to electrical power.
mm,
So the electrical companies are highly regulated entities. There are good reasons. The whole economy runs on electricity, everything, right? From heating in our houses, lighting in our houses, to the most important and sophisticated factories run on electricity. So we have good frameworks to allow private companies make a ton of money distributing and taking electricity from whatever they are producing it all the way to the plug where you plug your gadgets, right? So maybe that's one way that we want to think about this, that the LLMs are ultimate a utility and give us tokens or
mm,
tools,
mm,
but they can give us basically the raw material, if you will, its access via APIs, and that could open a lot of very interesting approaches and a lot of wealth created for a huge number of people, right?
mm,
And so I would like to see improvements or discussions around that, and therefore making these systems open source creates a
mm,
very interesting tension in the competitive marketplace. Is
mm,
if somebody tries to charge too much, users may just do the work with a free open source LLM
mm,
and good prompting, right? And good human intervention can give them for free 95, 90, 85% of the output at no cost. So open source has a great role in this. I wrote a lot in my first book about the open source community and how it should play a role in this revolution. So that's an amazing question. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other question is that just like you mentioned, a lot of basic work will be kind of like a AI agent that will start jumping in and working in the workforce with human. And as far as I know, like you see like a big company lay off a lot of people, and also some people even propose like a 4 day or 3 day work days. So you see like human work less and less, and human in the loop and doing more like a decision, more like a director job, and all the AI agent can do all the work. What do you see more like a UBI, and also like how you see the future of, for example, like a career and job, like the next generation, for example, like for the
Yes. Oof.
the college students. Yeah.
A lot to unpack there. So
Mm,
um, I think this ties back to the ethical aspects of deploying a technology that has the ability to disrupt a huge number of production roles and the chain of work in all aspects, right?
Mm.
Technology has the innate ability of creating progress and wreaking havoc. So you discover fire, you can set a house on fire, but you can also cook. You cannot
Mm.
have technology innovation with only the good side of things,
Yeah.
right?
Mm.
That is not to say we shouldn't be worried. I think we have to be very tuned into the discussions. I don't personally believe in UBI for a number of good reasons.
Mm.
One of them is for a long number of centuries, from philosophers to workers and people of all angles, all walks of life, have
Mm.
discovered and argued for the value and importance of effort before as a precursor or as part of earning your life, right? You need to make an effort to win what you have, to gain what you have, to own what you have, right?
Mm.
There is part of the human mind that works that way. When you make a ton of effort and you obtain what you want, you feel you have achieved
Mm.
something. So I'm very concerned of a future where we have to just distribute money so people can buy basic supplies to live. I don't think that it's going to happen for huge number of reasons that would take like hours. I would love to discuss them, by the way. Love to discuss and love to come back and have those conversations, participate in panels and excuse me and argue about this. So effort has to be a part. I don't think of a future where the work displacement is so huge that nobody quote unquote works. The simple reason is we humans have creativity and we will find ways to earn money
Mm.
and to make efforts and solve problems.
Mm.
We are not at a place where technology will solve all human problems.
Mm.
One of the other sides of those $100 million sign-on bonuses that we were mentioning at the beginning is, listen, you know how much money that is? You know that entire pediatric oncology programs run on 30 to $40 million a year, trying to
Mm.
save children from dying of cancer. And
Mm.
we are here in the middle of a revolution, paying people, handful of people, $100 million to sign on and switch companies.
Mm.
And are we thinking that all the problems of humanity are going to be solved because and nobody will have to make an effort to do nothing because agents will take over? I think we have watched too much Terminator, right?
Mm.
I think that the movie is ingrained in our heads, and we think the future, there is a non-stop journey to that future, and we have nothing else to do. Now,
Mm.
we are going to get busy doing things, building things, um, and these apocalyptic visions are just that, visions, right?
Mm.
So there is going to be disruption. No. And there's been already very negative news. People have interacted with generative AI systems and committed suicide. People have gotten very psychologically sick and isolated. And so
Mm.
it's not to say, right, everything is rosy and everything is great. No. Um, Somehow the future is in the middle, in between those very promising aspects of a future where machines get to do heavy lifting of things and the apocalyptic. In the middle, there is the future that we will create. Um, for that, I think we need to, or my way to explain it, my way to talk and teach the next generation and graduate students that I teach a lot to is maintain the concept of dignity,
Mm.
right? At the
Mm.
core of all these discussions and conversations. And dignity has three layers. It's super simple to define. It's not very hard, philosophical, deep questions or anything like that. It's super simple. And dignity is worth of respect, right? It's worthy of respect.
Mm.
So somebody, and dignity has three main layers. You have
Mm.
to respect yourself,
Mm.
right? To think about that, right? You can have to conduct your life in a way that you are serious about what you do with your own life,
Mm.
your emotional life, your well-being, your physical life, everything, right? We most
Mm.
of us uh, practice a sport because we know it's smart for health. We eat properly, right?
mm,
We sleep properly. We know that. But our emotions, our mental or spiritual lives, we have to take care of all of it. So we have to
mm,
respect ourselves. That
yeah,
is giving ourselves dignity. We have to
mm,
conduct ourselves as in a manner that we're worthy of somebody else's respect. So you can respect yourself a lot, but then if you don't conduct yourself, so this is second layer. You have
mm,
to keep your dignity around others, right?
mm,
So
yeah,
and this is super simple. When we are children, we are taught this. We treat others with respect because that's the only way that we can expect they respect us. We
mm,
share our toys with kids, to have friends, to make friends.
mm,
We treat them well because we want to connect with others. And eventually that brings the third layer, which is people have to show you respect. That is when you
mm,
have dignity in front of others, right? So it it begins with you, then you project it outside, and then others give it back to you, right?
mm,
And so what does it have to do with machines and artificial intelligence? Well, if we create agents and systems
mm,
and companies
mm,
that deploy technology that
mm,
don't respect people,
mm,
we are building a future that is way worse than if we have companies
mm,
that when they are creating products and monetizing their products and distributing their products, maintain the respect for people, workers, communities, the environment, right?
mm,
So if the leaders of those companies, and I'm
mm,
looking at them right now, they want to be respected by all of us, they
mm,
have to treat us with respect and not unleash tools that
mm,
have the ability to treat us without respect, right? So
mm.
there's a lot to cover. I said at the beginning, your question was amazing because there is so much to unpack, right? But it's so
Yeah.
simple. It's dignity. It's dignity.
Mm,
Listen, don't put a tool out there that doesn't respect people because basically you're saying to others, I don't deserve any dignity.
mm,
Uh, so super simple and it's super powerful.
yeah. And for example, you just mentioned like like we need like for example like companies deploy AI agents in the system, and those AI need to respect and to human. It reminds me of this morning I read a news which is kind of a journalist. She was writing kind of an article talking about how frustrated she was with her like a fitness coach, like an AI fitness coach. So she said that she was using that kind of like a measuring every day how far she run. However, recently she got like a injury. So that's why her, like the chart, the number was not good recently. And the AI coach was keep telling her that, oh, you miss. It's like giving her a huge goal to achieve, and she even prompt to that AI coach. I recently, got an injury. I couldn't do that far. Could we kind of lower something? And it seems like the AI coach couldn't understand. So she felt frustrated, and she was like, how can I even communicate with my coach? And she feel really sad because it's like it's not me who couldn't meet the standard. I want to keep up, the high standard. However, recently I couldn't do it. And she want to explain, but it's a chatbot. And it's very interesting. It seems like she was using an app. And yeah, and she said that sometimes she wanna ask the kind of like some she has a couple of like health kind of like a healthcare AI consultant types of like an app. She usually said that the data that she got from all those AI health coach is like a fourth grader kids sharing, just lay out all the data for her, and she didn't get any insights. So she actually feel like a lot of parts, for example empathy part, right, that AI couldn't really feel like oh, you broke your ankle, so you couldn't run. So, I couldn't really blame at you and ask why you are not like, oh, you have like a 1 miles to accomplish today. You didn't do anything and keep like having like a notification. So what do you see those types of interesting scenarios that how can we solve those problems that for AI to understand us more?
Yeah, it's a fascinating example, right? Because in the story, as you're telling it, I can see how this person projected too much on the chatbot, right? Expected
Yeah.
too much on the chatbot. And every time I talk to my students, I tell them,
Mm,
listen, these machines will never care for you. At best, they are going to be coded in a way that they try to grab your attention, maintain your attention for commercial reasons.
mm,
But these machines are never going to be a family member who actually, if you tell them, I am
mm,
suffering, I'm aching, there is something that bothers me, your family members are going to react with empathy, right?
mm,
Um, and I think it is part of us users understanding the limitations and never confounding good codes, good software, very good user experience design with humanity.
mm,
Um, it's just not a case. I recently talked to a student of mine who's just discovered AI agents, and she came and said, what if I code one that can help me make decisions in life? And I said, okay, let's talk about that a little bit.
mm,
And we walked through a couple of situations.
mm,
And I said, what if you go and ask your parents about this? And one said, well, my parents will say this, and that.
mm,
And well, what if you ask the machine and the machine gives you a more complete version or completely new idea? Um, and you test it and it goes extremely wrong, right?
mm,
Somehow lose something or get even further injury or something.
mm,
Now, complete the circle. And now you tell your parents that you did this with the machine, and because you interacted with the machine, you got even more injured, or you got,
mm,
you lost money, or you lost your job or something.
mm,
How would your parents react, your family react, right? And her reaction was quite normal. It's like, well, they're going to be not happy about it. They're going to ask me, why did I trust the machine to do this, right? And I said, well, that's the proof. That's the point. They care. They care. They care. The frustration means they care. And
mm,
that is part of interacting with humans, that some people out there may want to make these machines as good as that, but ultimately only us humans are able to have that reaction in front of another human, right?
mm, yeah.
We even have that reaction in front of objects, right? We love the first bicycle we rode, or in Argentina we love soccer, so we love the first football that we get. We love objects, right? That's too much, but
Mm,
only a human can generate attachment with other human. And that aspect is very well documented, and we all experience it from the moments we're babies. We discover our mothers, right? How can we become so undignified? Let's go back to that
mm,
concept of dignity, right? That we
mm,
start trusting machines to do this. So it's on
mm,
our side. And again, on the developers of such tools,
mm,
it's not hard to include some instructions that say, listen, you shouldn't personify, you should give space to the emotion side of a human, but
mm,
you should never impersonate the role of another human to connect with a human. You should, as a developer, you should put limits around your product.
mm,
If you want to be treated with respect and dignity, well, create products that respect and dignify users.
mm,
Super simple, right? So our
mm,
mothers have taught us to treat others with respect. Let's respect our mothers when we create products.
mm,
And there's no other way to put it, right?
mm. Yeah, and recently, if you see like the world wild, right? There are a lot of wars. And I saw a lot of, for example, like weapons. Right now, it's pretty much. I remember Paul Malaki mentioned that he said that, oh, in a lot of different countries, they've already implement AI. Just detect enemy and shoot without human intervention. The reason why is because it's quicker. Yeah, so if our enemy is doing that, we have to deploy that. However, I saw some WSJ Wall Street Journal. They mentioned that a lot of people, for example, one for coverage is that one a family like you can see woman like from the security camera, you can see woman and children get into a car and trying to go somewhere in Middle East, and the kind of like the military fly just saw that car and just directly bomb because that's AI automation. And however, if you saw the entire story from at the beginning, because the Wall Street Journal was trying to kind of depict like the entire story. So using all the security camera, like from here, what time, and this family just land, and so you can see who get into the car. It's all, women, children, and not military people, not definitely not terrorists. They just came out from grocery store. So it's a very clear story. But through those types of AI automation attacks, that those people die because you can see like at the end that car got bombarded, and people start condemning that, hey, those people are innocent, and if you have AI automation weapon without human intervention, it's very, very dangerous. And but for the argument for different companies is that, hey, China or Russian is doing this. If we are not doing this, how can we will lose the war? So what do you see those types of like in destructive way? Yeah.
Yes, it's a great, another great question, right? About where this is taking warfare and conflict.
Mm,
And we have to go back in history. We have been here. So
mm,
World War I was a war fought with old methods, but
mm,
new tools.
mm,
And the new tools were machine guns and poisonous gases.
mm,
But the troops were advancing on foot or horses. So
mm,
you had the old tactics, old approaches to war, and and machines that were very effective at killing, and therefore the number of casualties was the number of people who died was extremely high. And after that, we had a convention for wars, right? The Geneva Convention tells us it is illegal to use in a war
mm,
poisonous gases and biological weapons. So we have regulated the use of weapons. It is not hard to see that these weapons have to be regulated as well.
mm,
We can see another set of lessons that we learned during the Cold War
mm,
after atomic bombs were deployed in the Second World War. And there were arguments that the atomic bombs needed to be deployed to stop the war. Otherwise, Japan would have never stopped. But they were deployed on civil populations, right?
mm,
And but the world understood that doing it is extremely bad, and we had a huge race
mm.
during the Cold War to build more atomic weapons,
Yeah.
and so on and so forth.
Mm,
And so far, knocking on wood and saying my prayers daily, we haven't seen other nuclear weapons deployed because we
mm,
understand as humans and our leaders understand, but we in the civil society also vote and try to vote for politicians who can remain calm, cool, and gathered, right? And over the years, we learned that we've been close. In the Cuban Missile Crisis, there has been instances where we could have had another nuclear exchange. And so, again, going back to my analogy, you invent the fire, you can burn down a house, you can also cook. AI and drones, AI and tools is a new layer of potential human destruction. We have to be very thoughtful, very careful on how we use them, and regulation. It's possible, right?
Mm,
We've regulated the way we fight wars. When people have broken those rules, there's been international condemnation, there's been trials on genocides, they've been uh, uh, perpetrators have been taken to justice in The Hague, in Holland, because there is an international criminal court that asked for the extradition of perpetrators. And we are seeing that some leaders that are part of these conflicts have been accused in these courts because what they are doing, um, it's genocide, right?
yeah.
And so AI is another installment. It's another installment. It brings another layer of potential catastrophic damage and huge amounts of death, unnecessary death. Every death is a problem. Um, we humans have not learned how to not fight, not be
Mm,
belligerent yet. So
mm,
weapons are a need of for safety and sadly
mm.
are abused. That's the
Yeah.
answer. I think we have to
Yeah.
read history, right, and try to avoid it, learn from it and avoid it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And the other question is that since you also teach in universities, and recently there are a lot of like kind of trends that a lot of new grads rather become like a, for example, like a technician, right? Like doing some like a blue belt types of jobs to fix, or like all those like a utility types of people. So what do you see these types of trend rather than people's, because right now you can see AI bot, right? A lot of people even show the data that Accenture or those like a consulting big firms, white collar like experts, their job or their stock going down. The reason why is because a lot of AI chatbot can pretty much, you just can say, hey, come up with a plan. Hey, come up with something. And they will pretty much generate a slide for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so for example, like when I do my curriculum design, I usually just say, I'm going to do something, describe what I'm going to teach, and student learning goal, and then generate kind of like 18 weeks of things, what software I'm going to teach. What do you see? Because before it might take a person, right? Like a for like 10 years of experience to come up with a decent design of some certain like for example like a curriculum or even doctor, like a even policy attorney, right? Or a lot of like white collar job. So how do you see those types of trends? Because we all know that college student, they are young, they are our future. And if um, they start doing a job that is more blue collar, that require less types of knowledge, what do you see these types of trend will impact our future?
Yes, there are huge forces playing roles here. The emergence of China as a powerful geopolitical player in the world is disrupting a unipolar world, right? When I
Mm,
was growing up, the world was quote unquote divided in three major layers, right? It was
mm,
the United States and the Western powerful NATO alliance,
mm,
and the USSR and the pro-communist forces that wanted to counter that.
mm,
And one way or another, Argentina was qualified and categorized in the third world, right?
mm,
It was quite belittling to hear that you were born in a country that is considered the third world, right?
mm,
So with the collapse of the Soviet Union in late 80s, early 90s, there was no more second world, and now countries like Argentina were called developing. We were trying to develop, right? It was a
mm,
long journey for us, and there was this only one big power left. There was a famous historian that called it the end of history,
mm,
because from now on, the United States was going to rule the world, right? I think
mm,
his name was Fukuyama, if I don't,
mm,
if my doesn't fail me, right? But China began opening their productive system after a huge famine in the early 70s. In the recent years, there's been even more progress for a number of factors. There are a couple of very interesting books that explain this emergence. And so it is obvious that China is another powerful force in the world. There's no denying it. And so the answer of the Western world has been, listen, we cannot put all, after sending for decades all their supply chains in manufacturing facilities to China, um, they realize they can't do it, right? And they need to onshore, and therefore the
mm,
world is taking a new form, a new shape, and
mm,
countries want to keep control of their manufacturing facilities. That's one of the forces of geopolitical realignment, right?
mm,
Countries have different levels of their strength or forces being challenged, and new alliances are emerging. We will see what happens in the next 5 years, how that emerges as one force. The other force is populations, right? Developed nations are seeing somehow the inversion of their population pyramids. Young people are not getting married, or getting married and not getting a lot of children.
mm,
And that means that, and at the same time, we are living longer lives. And therefore, we should be working later years, but we are tired, right? And so, in the middle of all those forces, we are seeing that a lot of countries want a rebirth, reemergence of blue-collar jobs to answer this new reality. On top
mm.
of that, you have this other force called generative AI that can do the work you were just describing, right? Give you
Yeah,
a learning plan in 30 seconds that otherwise would have taken you years of experience to design
yeah,
as an instructional designer. And now you get it in 45 seconds, right? And if you
yeah,
are an instructional designer, you can see where it made a mistake and you can clearly correct it very quick, right?
yeah,
And so that is going to cause some unemployment, some people that were trained in the old-fashioned way will not find jobs, right? And so
yeah,
all those forces are playing roles, and I'm still hopeful. I choose to hope that we will, with creativity, enough um, advocacy, putting pressure on our politicians to come up with answers before it's too late, or before so much damage is done that it takes us decades to rebuild,
mm,
that we can control the negative impacts of generative AI at a time when we have all those other forces that are reshaping our societies, right? And
mm,
enjoy most of the benefits, right? My contribution to that is my marketplace, right?
mm,
It's my intention to mint a million millionaires, right? That's my
mm,
reaction to it. I want to do something useful. Okay,
mm,
let me align my capital, my knowledge,
mm.
my experience, my passion behind this idea, right? Call on other people to kind of help build a community that help use this to do better work, uh, less tedious work. Let the machines do the tedious work. Let us do the more creativity side of work, or interact more with humans, and at the same time earn a decent living, and build a better future, right? So
Yeah,
we're changing at a rapid pace, and it's scary. It's natural to be scared. But the more you talk to people, that's one of the things that I love the most talking to young people is, and teaching in universities is, um, everybody has a bright future in front of them, and they
mm,
tend to be very hopeful, right?
mm,
Young people tend to be very hopeful. Um, so we center that with dignity. We put dignity, everybody's dignity at the core of our effort. we have a better chance at creating something better future than a darker future, right? No Terminators, no Terminators, right? But it's a struggle. It's not
Mm.
easy, and there may be very dark moments. But I choose to remain hopeful.
Yeah. So yeah. So thank you so much for giving us like your insights for from AI agent to education, to like a military UBI. And what's the one thing that you still like to share that we haven't touched on yet?
Um, wow, we covered a lot. Thank you for all these questions. We covered a lot. I think this concept of dignity, right, that we already said, I don't think
Mm,
we have left anything unturned. Um, this concept of dignity is at the center of everything because we could be discussing these conversations back and forth for hours,
mm,
but if we lose sight that we all deserve to be treated with respect,
mm,
and we lose sight of the fact that that respect is universal, I think
yeah.
to make it work, you just
Mm,
don't respect people who look like you, speak like you, believe in what you
mm,
believe. You respect
yeah.
everybody, right? And if you take it as a universal
Mm,
principle,
yeah.
uh, we have better chances to do good things than not, right?
Yeah.
I cannot emphasize it enough. I may have to
Mm.
write another book about it, another book this time about dignity, right? I haven't written one about dignity yet. Um,
Mm,
but yes, dignity, keep that in mind, right? Dignity, treat yourself with respect,
mm,
emanate and show that self-respect so others can give it to you, expect it from others, respectfully ask, do not demand it because nobody likes being demanded of things, right? Um, make sure to keep it at all as a
uh,
core value in your life.
mm, mm.
Um, you'll have a better life than not.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. I think that's a pretty good this is a pretty good episode talks about like in AI era how we need to like what's the I would say the core value that we need to have and towards everybody else, and also how AI need to we treat AI and AI treat us. We need to respect, and we need to have dignity. And also, you see, like we cover a lot of topics, pretty much across different fields. Okay,
Yes.
cool. So, yeah, that's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. We release episodes weekly. If you enjoy this conversation, check out our other episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Support us by giving us a follow and a 5-star rating, or subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Thank you and see you next time.